Okay, let's dive in. Today we're looking at, well, a truly monumental piece of literature, Victor Hugo's Les Misérables.
Hmm.
I mean, many of you will know the name, right? Maybe the musical. But the actual book, the source material we're exploring today, it offers just an incredible journey, really gets into human nature, societal struggles, the profound impact of our individual choices.
Yeah.
And we've got excerpts from the abridged novel, some fascinating stuff about its publication, critical commentary, that
Yeah.
really highlights the genius, doesn't it? Our mission, really, is to get you well informed about this classic, not just the plot, but the powerful ideas Hugo packed in there.
Exactly. And what's fascinating, I think, is we're really trying to pull out the core nuggets of knowledge from these sources. We want to go beyond just the surface story, understand those intricate layers of meaning Hugo wove into it. The profound moral dilemmas the characters face, that vivid depiction of 19th century Paris, and how all these elements connect to these larger sort of timeless societal questions. It really is a shortcut, in a way, to grasping the essence of what makes this masterpiece so enduring.
So let's start our journey. Not with Valjean, actually, but with the person who plants the seed of redemption, Bishop Myriel. We know he was hit hard by the revolution, impoverished, started as a curé, even met Napoleon apparently. But what really set him apart?
Well, his generosity, for one thing, it was just radical. He gets this bishop's salary, 15,000 francs a year, which was a lot back then. But instead of, tithing the usual amount, he gives away 90% to the poor and kept meticulous accounts, too. But it wasn't just about the money. It was his whole philosophy, almost, well, socialist for 19th century France. Hugo uses him to argue that the faults of women, children, and servants, they were really the faults of their husbands, fathers, and masters.
That's a powerful statement for the time.
It really is. And he said society is culpable for not providing free education for everyone. He urged people to fear ourselves, our own failings, rather than worrying about external threats like robbers. He said the great dangers are within us. Let us think only of what threatens our souls. It just flips conventional morality on its head, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And this is where his philosophy really gets tested, right? He visits this aged conventionist, a man who voted for the king's execution during the revolution, seen as a pariah, a vulture, a soul alone. Why? What was the significance of that meeting?
Oh, it wasn't just a social call. It was a real dialogue between these two profoundly different viewpoints. But both, interestingly, were rooted in a desire for justice in their own way. The conventionist, he saw his actions, even executing the king, as a duty to exterminate evil. He fought for the abolition of prostitution for women, of slavery for man, of night for the child. He voted for fraternity, for harmony, for light.
So the bishop sought understanding, not just condemnation.
Exactly. It shows the bishop's willingness to engage, to think critically, to show compassion, even when facing someone society utterly rejected. It speaks volumes about Muriel's moral courage. Although it's quite humanizing, he did admit it would be difficult for me to give up eating from silver. A small touch of reality there.
A touch of relatable humanity, yeah.
Nah.
Okay, so from Bishop Myriel's quiet compassion, let's shift to the man whose life is changed forever by it, Jean Valjean, our central figure. We meet him, middle-aged, burly and hardy, maybe 46, 47. What was his background? What led him down that path?
He was originally a pruner from Faverolles, uneducated, didn't learn to read as a child. And his crime, the one that started it all, stealing bread for his widowed sister and her 7 children.
7 children.
7, yeah. The youngest just a year old. And for that, he gets 19 years in the galleys. 19 years, enduring the iron collar. He felt, understandably, that society had basically robbed him by wholesale, taking away his life, his meager savings. And the source puts it so powerfully. Liberation is not deliverance. A convict may leave the galleys behind, but not his condemnation.
Wow. That really captures Hugo's critique, doesn't it? The system itself creating the problem.
Precisely. The rigidity of the legal system turns a desperate man into a hardened convict.
So that brings us to his arrival in the town, D, in October 1815. He's just been released, and he's rejected everywhere. Can't find lodging, can't find food, even a dog bites him. It's brutal. What happens when he's finally pointed towards the bishop's house? That fateful encounter.
Well, Madame Magloire, the bishop's housekeeper, she's absolutely terrified, sees this ill-favored runaway.
Yeah.
But the bishop, he just welcomes him, says, "Your name is my brother," offers him food, a bed, simple human decency.
And then Valjean repays him by stealing the silver.
He does. He steals the bishop's valuable silver dishes. But this is the turning point, isn't it? Instead of being a final fall, it becomes the catalyst for redemption because the bishop lies to the police.
He claims he gave him the silver.
Exactly, claims he gave it to him, and then gives him the silver candlesticks too, saying, "Forget not, never forget that you have promised me to use the silver to become an honest man. It is your soul that I am buying for you, and I am giving it to God."
Chills. Just absolutely transformative. An act of radical grace.
It's an investment in his soul, truly.
But then, almost immediately after this huge moment, he falters again. He meets this young Savoyard boy, Petit Gervais, and steals his 40-sou coin. And then he's filled with despair, tries to give the money back but can't find the boy, cries out, "I am a robber!" collapses, calling himself a wretch.
Yeah.
What does that tell us? Is grace not enough? Is transformation not instant?
It shows just how deep the scars run, doesn't it? How ingrained his past conditioning is. Even with that extraordinary act from the bishop, Valjean's self-image, his instinct as a survivor, as a wretch, it's still incredibly powerful. Stealing from Petit Gervais isn't just about the coin. It's like a reflex, a regression, followed by just overwhelming remorse.
So it's a battle.
It's a battle for his soul, absolutely. Grace isn't a magic switch. It's a seed planted, but it has to fight against that hard, damaged ground. And Hugo seems to suggest that real virtue isn't about never being tempted. It's about confronting that temptation, that inner struggle, and eventually overcoming it. That's where character is truly forged.
Right. That ongoing struggle. It highlights Hugo's focus on human suffering, which brings us perfectly to Fantine. Such a heartbreaking story, abandoned by her lover Tholomyès, with this cold letter saying, basically, we're going back to respectable society, duty, order. Leaves her with her child Cosette. So what happens to Fantine? What's the escalating cost of survival for her as society just keeps turning its back?
Oh, Fantine's story is just harrowing. It's a brutal illustration of society's failures, really. She loses her job because some prison contractor undercuts wages down to 9 sous a day, basically starvation wages.
Impossible to live on.
Impossible. So to support herself and Cosette, who she's placed with the Thénardiers, she starts selling parts of herself. First, her 2 front teeth for a gold Napoleon each. Think about the pain, the humiliation.
Unimaginable.
Then her beautiful hair. Gone. She loses her modesty, her coquetry. She gets sick, this persistent cough, shoulder pain. And the creditors, they're merciless, chasing her down, stripping away every last bit of dignity.
It's just a devastating indictment of this system for women, especially poor women back then.
Absolutely.
And it culminates in that confrontation with Javert. He sentences her to 6 months in prison for...
What?
Defending herself?
Essentially, yes, a public disturbance after being harassed. But then Jean Valjean, now Mayor Madeleine, steps in. How does he intervene?
Right. Valjean is now M. Madeleine, respected mayor.
Yes. And he steps in decisively, promises to pay her debt, and promises to bring Cosette to her, promises to care for them both. He even tells her, "You have never ceased to be virtuous and holy before God."
Wow. Coming from him, the former convict, defending her inherent worth against society's judgment.
It's incredibly powerful. But tragically, it's too late in some ways. Fantine dies, believing Cosette is on her way, but she never sees her daughter again. Javert shatters her hope by revealing Madeleine's true identity right at that critical moment. Her death just underscores the destructive power of that rigid judgment, the inescapable past. It's such a tragedy. And Fantine's suffering, Valjean's promise, that leads us right to Cosette's early life. She's with the Thénardiers who run this inn, the Sergeant of Waterloo place, and they are... well, they're something else entirely, aren't they? Compared to Bishop Myriel. Tell us about them and Cosette's life there.
Oh, the Thénardiers are monstrous. The source calls the wife a brute and the husband a blackguard. They represent this hideous species of progress which can be made towards evil. Just pure avarice and cruelty, basically.
And poor Cosette.
She's nicknamed the Lark. Not charmingly, but because she's tiny. No larger than a bird, trembling, frightened, and shivering. She wakes up first, does all the chores, sweeping streets before dawn, sent out alone at night, just 8 years old, to fetch a heavy bucket of water from the woods.
8 years old, fetching water in the dark woods.
And constantly abused, this hailstorm of undeserved and severe chastisements. She doesn't even own a doll. Just a broken wooden shoe she treats like one. It's just a picture of utter misery and exploitation. Horrifying. So, Valjean arrives, driven by his promise to Fantine, maybe his own need for atonement. What happens when he finds Cosette at their inn?
He first sees her struggling with that heavy water bucket in the woods. It's such a stark image. When he arrives at the inn, Thénardier, who's incredibly shrewd and opportunistic, immediately senses Valjean's interest in the girl. Even though Valjean looks poor, Thénardier sees him as this potentially rich, good fellow with a secret.
He smells money.
Exactly. He's a master of cunning. He senses something's up and demands 1,500 francs for Cosette, a huge sum.
And Valjean
pays it. Without hesitation. It's this powerful moment of intervention. Compassion literally buying a child out of hell.
And Cosette, how does she react? She's known nothing but fear and drudgery.
She's just dazzled by the gold coin Valjean gives to Thénardier, by the sudden, intoxicated shift in her destiny. And then Valjean buys her a doll, a gigantic doll, something she can only dream of. It's like her stolen childhood is suddenly being handed back to her.
A powerful symbol.
Absolutely. And she immediately feels safe with Valjean. No longer afraid of the Thénardier, it's her aha moment, Hugo says, moving from shivering misfortune to feeling clothed and warm in her soul.
And for Valjean, it must be the first real fruit of his redemption, right? Tangible proof of the bishop's grace working through him.
Exactly. It's the fulfillment of that promise, the beginning of his new purpose.
Okay, so Valjean creates this new life, M. Madeleine. In Montreuil-sur-Mer, or M. He becomes wealthy, respected, the mayor even. Thanks to this innovation he developed, the jet work for black-class beads, it helps the whole region.
Yeah, it revitalizes the local economy. He's a benefactor, wears mourning for the bishop, helps poor chimney sweeps. He's trying to live out that promise.
But there's always a but in this story. His past looms large, especially in the form of Inspector Javert. When's Javert's deal? Why is he so suspicious?
Javert is, well, he's described as a virgin detective, incapable of lying, utterly devoted to the law, but he has this inveterate aversion for Madeleine. He represents that rigid, unbending justice. He cannot believe that a man can truly change. He's convinced Madeleine is the former convict, Jean Valjean, and he's obsessed with proving it.
Even when Madeleine is doing so much good.
Especially then, perhaps. It contradicts Javert's entire worldview. It's this fundamental clash. Absolute letter-of-the-law justice versus the possibility of human transformation and grace.
And that clash comes to a head when someone else, this old tree pruner named Marius, is mistakenly identified as Jean Valjean. This puts Valjean in an impossible position.
Oh, it's the ultimate moral crucible for him. Does he let this innocent man go to the galleys in his place, protect his new life, his prosperity, Cosette's future?
The temptation must have been immense.
Absolutely. He experiences this burst of interior laughter, a mix of irony, joy, despair, thinking, sanctity within and infamy without, keep up the facade. But then this inner voice reminds him, all these blessings, this respect, this wealth, they mean nothing if built on a lie. Only the curse shall mount into the presence of God.
Ties back to Hugo's theme about spiritual ordeals, right?
Yeah.
The real test isn't avoiding trouble, but facing these moral choices.
Exactly. His biggest challenge isn't Javert, it's his own conscience. It's that battle for his soul again.
So he chooses to confess. Travels to Arras, there's that vivid description of the carriage ride, the blurring landscape, and the courthouse itself. What's significant about where he confesses?
Well, get this. The courthouse is actually the former bishop's palace, the very place where Bishop Myriel lived.
Wow. So he's brought to justice, reveals his true self in the very place he first received grace. The symmetry is incredible.
It really is. And inside, Valjean feels like he's watching his past trial, played by his shadow. But this time, the source notes, God was not there. It implies a critique of the human legal system. It sees the crime, the identity, but it's blind to the soul's transformation, lacks that divine or spiritual justice element.
So he confesses, reveals himself as Jean Valjean,
Yeah.
and he's sent back to the galleys. Toulon this time.
Yeah.
But even there, his inherent nature comes through. He performs this heroic act during a storm.
Yes, on the ship Orion. He saves a sailor who's fallen, shows incredible agility, strength. He breaks his own chain by one blow of the hammer.
Which is unusual strength.
Highly unusual. It makes the authorities doubt if he's just some common thief even after his confession. It's his heroism, ironically not his conformity, that starts to subtly chip away at the rigid perception of him. And later, Javert actually connects Valjean's escape around this time with the kidnapping of Cosette from Montfermeil and Fantine's death. It confirms Javert's suspicions about Madeleine's identity, but it also plants this seed of, well, grudging admiration for a convict.
Fascinating. Okay, so Valjean escapes again, presumably after the Orion incident, and he takes Cosette with him. Where do they find refuge?
They end up in the convent of Petit Picpus in Paris. They get help from Fauchelevent, the old man whose life Valjean saved back in Montreuil-sur-Mer when he lifted that heavy cart.
Ah, Fauchelevent, right, the cart incident. Another act of strength that drew Javert's attention.
Exactly. So Fauchelevent is now the gardener at this convent. and he helped Valjean get in.
What's their life like there? Is it finally safe?
It's a period of fragile peace. Hidden away, Valjean becomes Ultimus Fauchelevent, the assistant gardener. Cosette is admitted as a charity pupil. And there's this slightly darkly funny detail. The prioress's main reason for admitting Cosette was apparently the comment, "She will be homely."
Oh dear. Convent priorities, I guess.
Seems so. Valjean is meticulous about hiding his past. Keeps the 40-sou coin he stole from Petit Gervais, bits of his old convict club. Constant reminders of the past, constant fear of discovery. Their sanctuary feels precarious.
And as Cosette starts to grow up in the convent, Valjean becomes anxious, despite the relative safety. Why? Why does her growing beauty fill him with terror?
Because his entire world, his entire purpose has become centered on her. He loves her completely. Loved by Cosette, he was content, he asked nothing more.
Yeah.
Her burgeoning beauty, her growing independence, it signals that she will eventually leave him, enter the world, maybe love someone else. It's ominous to him.
It threatens the fragile world he's built just for them.
Exactly. He becomes almost paranoid about her safety, her presence, staging shadows to reassure himself she's there. Eventually, he moves them out of the convent to a new lodging in the Rue de l'Homme Armé, partly to keep her hidden, maybe partly to keep her closer.
It's understandable given his past, but also quite possessive, isn't it?
It is. It shows the complexities of his love and his trauma.
Okay, meanwhile, another major character enters the story, Marius Pontmercy. His background adds another layer to Hugo's picture of French society, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about his complicated family situation.
Very complicated. Marius is raised by his grandfather, Monsieur Gillenormand, who is a staunch royalist. Gillenormand despises Marius's father, Colonel Pontmercy, who was a hero under Napoleon, a Bonapartist. So Marius grows up estranged from his father's memory and legacy.
That family split really mirrors the bigger political divides in France at the time, doesn't it? Royalist versus Bonapartist.
Perfectly. And Marius only learns the truth about his father's love for him later from a church warden. He also learns his father's dying wish. Find and reward a man named Thénardier, who Colonel Pontmercy mistakenly believed saved his life at Waterloo.
Thénardier again. This sets up a huge conflict for Marius later on, I imagine.
A massive conflict torn between his father's dying wish and, well, the reality of who Thénardier is.
And Marius also gets involved with this group of revolutionary students, the Friends of the ABC. How do their ideals influence him? Pull him into the political currents.
He starts hanging out with them, debating politics and philosophy. You have leaders like Enjolras.
The intense one.
Yeah. Enjolras represents the logic of the revolution. It's almost divine right, severe, willing to go all the way for the cause. Think Robespierre. And then there's Combeferre, who represents its philosophy, its natural right. He wants progress through enlightenment, not destruction. More like Condorcet.
So Marius gets exposed to these big revolutionary ideas.
Right. It broadens his horizons beyond just his personal family drama and his father's legacy. He starts thinking about society, justice, the future of France. It really shapes him from this sort of naive, romantic young man into someone politically engaged.
And inevitably his path crosses with Cosette's. How do they finally meet?
It's quite romantic, actually. They meet in the Luxembourg Gardens in Paris. Cosette is a young woman now. She starts noticing her appearance, her clothes, after overhearing comments like, pretty but badly dressed. Typical young woman awakening, really.
Nice.
Their romance blossoms. Hugo describes it as chaste but passionate. They start meeting secretly in the garden of Cosette's house on the Rue Plumet after Valjean's gone to bed.
Exchanging words that make the trees thrill. Classic Hugo.
Absolutely. It's this pure, idealistic young love set against this backdrop of all their hidden histories and the looming social turmoil.
Okay, the stage is set. Young love, hidden pasts, and then the villains return. The Thénardiers resurface. They're using the name Jondrette now. And Marius, just by sheer chance, ends up living in a cheap room right next door to them in this run-down tenement building, the Gorbeau house.
Incredible coincidence, isn't it? Or maybe fate, in Hugo's world.
And this is where it gets truly agonizing for Marius. He overhears their scheme through a hole in the wall. What is it, and what's the awful dilemma it creates for him?
He hears them plotting to ambush and rob a philanthropist who visits them, who turns out to be Jean Valjean, visiting under a false name to offer charity, and they plan to use Cosette somehow, or at least recognize her connection.
Valjean. So Marius realizes the man he knows as Anne Madeleine, Cosette's protector, is the target.
Exactly, and he's horrified. His first instinct is to run to the police, to Javert, to stop them, protect this good man, protect Cosette indirectly. But then He recognizes the leader of the gang. It's Thénardier, the man his father told him to find and reward.
Oh no. The man who supposedly saved his father at Waterloo.
The very same, so Marius is paralyzed. Remorse on either hand, Hugo writes. Denounce Thénardier and betray his father's dying wish. Or let the ambush happen and betray his conscience, endanger Valjean and potentially Cosette. It's a truly tragic spot for him.
What a terrible choice. So the ambush happens in the Gorbeau tenement. How does Valjean, the intended victim, manage to get out of it? He's tied up, right?
He is, but Valjean has skills from his past. He uses this ingenious little tool, a sou coin, a penny that's been split open, hollowed out, and rescrewed together. Inside is a tiny watch spring filed into a saw.
A hidden saw and a coin. Amazing.
A marvel of labor which the patience of the galleys produces, as Hugo puts it. He uses it to secretly saw through the ropes binding him while Thénardier is ranting. He even uses a hot poker to burn himself to create a diversion. Incredible resourcefulness under pressure.
A testament to his past, used for survival now. And Javert arrives. Marius did manage to alert him.
Yes, Marius threw a note alerting Javert just before the climax, so Javert bursts in with his officers right in the middle of the chaos Valjean created.
And the Thénardiers.
They resist furiously, especially Madame Thénardier, but they're overwhelmed and arrested, bound. The whole scene is just masterful suspense, but it's also dripping with irony. Javert thinks he's just busting a common robbery gang.
While unknowingly letting his real target, Valjean, slip away in the confusion.
Exactly. Valjean escapes out the window while Javert is focused on the Thénardier. Fate, or perhaps Providence, intervenes again.
Right. Okay, events are accelerating now. The story moves towards the June 1832 insurrection in Paris, the barricade, in the Rue de la Chanvrerie. This is a huge, dramatic section. Tell us more about those students of the ABC. What ideals are they actually fighting and dying for on that barricade?
They really do represent the different strands of revolutionary thought at the time. You have Enjolras, the leader. He's the embodiment of the revolution's logic, its purity, its almost divine right. He's severe, unwavering, ready for radical action.
The uncompromising idealist.
Precisely. And then his counterpart, Combeferre, represents the revolution's philosophy, its natural right. He wants progress through enlightenment education without a stain. He'd rather wait for dawn than start a fire, basically. And even Grantaire, the cynic, the drunkard who believes in nothing. Even he finds his moment of belief and courage, choosing to die alongside Enjolras.
So they're not just fighting soldiers, they're fighting for competing visions of France's future.
Exactly. It's an ideological battle played out with muskets.
And amidst this chaos, you have Gavroche, the ultimate gamin of Paris. What's his role? He's such a memorable character.
Oh, Gavroche is unforgettable. He's pure Parisian street urchin spirit. Resilient, defiant, witty. He even looks after two lost little boys who are likely his own estranged younger brothers, though he doesn't know it, sheltering them inside the abandoned elephant statue at the Bastille.
The elephant, right.
At the barricade, he's just this whirlwind of energy, a firefly, Hugo calls him. He spies for the rebels, identifies Javert when he tries to infiltrate, helps his father Thénardier escape from prison earlier by bringing him a rope.
Wait, he helps Thénardier escape. His own father who abandoned him.
Yeah, though it's not clear if he fully understands the connection or the implications. It's just Gavroche being resourceful. And then his final act, dashing out under fire to collect cartridges from the dead soldiers, singing this defiant little song, until he's shot down. That great little soul had taken flight.
Heartbreaking, a symbol of the innocence crushed by the conflict. And Javert. He gets captured at the barricade by the rebels. Enjolras tells him, "We are judges, not assassins," and decides not to execute him immediately. How does Javert, the man of absolute law, react to this? Mercy from rebels.
It completely shatters him. It's the beginning of his final breakdown. He's tied to a post, listening to the battle rage, expecting death. Then Jean Valjean shows up at the barricade, not to fight, but to tend the wounded. He saves Marius, carrying him off through the sewers.
And Javert sees all this.
He sees Valjean's selfless actions. He sees the man he's hunted for years acting with pure altruism, risking his life for others, even letting Javert himself go free later when Valjean is given the chance to execute him. Javert is confronted with admiration for a convict. He thinks, respect for a galley slave, can that be possible?
It breaks his entire framework.
Completely. All the rigid axioms that structured his life, his sense of order, good versus evil, they just crumble. He feels something horrible penetrating his soul. The horrible realization that his black and white world doesn't match reality. That Valjean, the convict, might be morally superior to him, the enforcer of the law.
So Valjean escapes the barricade with the unconscious Marius, carrying him through the sewers of Paris. A truly epic journey. And who does he run into down there, in the darkness?
In this unbelievable, almost surreal twist, he encounters Thénardier again.
Thénardier, in the sewer.
Yes. Thénardier is hiding down there, having escaped prison thanks partly to Gavroche's rope. He doesn't recognize Valjean in the gloom. Mistaking Valjean for just another criminal, maybe an assassin escaping with a body, Thénardier offers to help him get out of the sewer through a locked gate. For a price, of course. A share of the presumed loot from the victim Valjean is carrying.
Even in the depths of the sewer, Thénardier is still Thénardier, utterly self-serving.
Completely.
Yeah.
It highlights his hideous, unchanging nature, a stark contrast to Valjean, who's performing this incredibly selfless act of rescue. Hugo shows us that true evil persists, unredeemed, even in the literal underworld.
And what finally becomes of Javert? His world shattered, unable to reconcile Valjean's virtue with his own rigid code.
Javert is lost. He lets Valjean go after Valjean brings Marius out of the sewer. He can't arrest him. He can't not arrest him. He's caught in an impossible contradiction. His belief system, his entire identity is destroyed. The source describes him looking down into the dark, swirling rapids of the Seine River, a formidable whirlpool. You can't live in a world where a convict is virtuous and the law seems inadequate or even wrong. Unable to adapt, unable to find a new foundation, he lets himself fall into the river. A tragic end for a man trapped by his own inflexible principles.
Wow. What an epic sweep. So let's try to wrap this up. What does it all mean? We've followed Jean Valjean's incredible arc from desperate thief to convict to mayor to near saint. We've seen Fantine's tragic decline, Cosette's rescue, Marius's struggles with loyalty and love, the student's doomed idealism, Javert's rigid adherence to law leading to his collapse. It's just such a profound look at human resilience, the crushing weight of social injustice, and the immense power of individual choices for good or ill, and the possibility of compassion.
Absolutely. And if you connect it to the bigger picture, Hugo's really driving home some key ideas. He argues that the only social peril is darkness. That ignorance, poverty, lack of education, these are the things that truly blacken humanity. Society itself is culpable, he says, for not educating everyone.
Like Bishop Myriel believed.
Exactly. And the story constantly highlights Hugo's belief that life throws these spiritual ordeals at us: temptation, pride, complacency, facing injustice. But these aren't just punishments. They're tests that can potentially strengthen us, forge virtue. It's fundamentally about potential. Every single person, regardless of their past or station, holds the potential for redemption, for goodness. But also, as we see with Thénardier, the potential for that hideous species of progress which can be made towards evil.
So it forces us to think critically, doesn't it? About our society, our justice systems, our own morality. It pushes for a more compassionate view of human failure.
Definitely. It challenges easy judgments.
Which leads to a final question, really.
Yeah.
After journeying through this incredible tapestry of human experience, all the vice, the virtue, the suffering, the salvation, what does Les Misérables provoke you, the listener, to consider? What is the true meaning of justice? What does genuine transformation look like in a world that often seems to back people into impossible corners, demanding impossible choices?